The following podcast is sponsored by Words and Pictures Comics, located at 2610 Center Street, number 6. Words and Pictures is your one-stop shop for vintage back issues and cutting-edge graphic novels. Awesome service, great shop. Check them out. Welcome, everyone, to episode 253 of Just Joshing. I am your host, Joshua Pentolaresco. I write stuff and podcasts too. Today, we're going back to the Creative Inc. interviews. Brenda Carre joins the podcast, and we have an interesting conversation, and somewhere along the way is joined by yet another cool guest. But most of this is about Brenda, and Brenda was an awesome conversation and a very fun one. We had a really fun back and forth, and we'll get right into that really shortly. I'm going to talk about a couple of things. There's no giveaway this week, but just for this week. Next week, there'll be a giveaway again. This has been... the podcast has done, since I've gone on my own, some things have really worked, some things have really not, and at the end of this episode, I'll talk about some of the things I'm doing and I'm not doing. I'm taking some advice, and I'm scaling back on some things, and other things I'm going to try to make a more concerted effort to put forth. So I'm giving myself my own report card here. But for now, let's just get into that conversation with Brenda, shall we? I'm going to turn this on because this is already kind of a good talk.
Sure.
I look at everybody here. I do have some writing credits, but I'm a podcaster, not real. I'm more known for that than my writing.
Yeah,
I'm okay with that. But I mean,
absolutely.
right?
Yeah.
But that's what I'm known for. So why am I at a writing conference, other than the fact that yes, I do like interviewing wonderful people such as yourself.
Right.
Yeah,
okay.
But what do I bring to the table? And the thing is, I've interviewed enough authors to realize that by and large, most authors don't have a clue who they are. And honestly, more often than not, that's what holds them back.
Really, really insightful. Incredibly insightful.
Right, that's what holds them back. It's not... Talent is... Look, I'm like, there's some incredibly talented people here, and there's a lot of them. Yourself, Tyner, Tyner's super...
Everybody in that room
everybody
all has an amazing voice.
Yeah, exactly. They all do, right? But again, very few people are truly comfortable in their own skin. Writers are introverts by nature.
Oh,
right.
I am.
Yeah, no, I am too. I'm actually an introvert, even though I do this. The thing about that is, though, right? I'm comfortable in my own skin. I know who I am.
Yep.
And I'm not afraid to go out there, and I'm not afraid to look vulnerable or foolish. I've learned how to do those things. Right. A lot of authors. Are you banishing?
Yeah. You live locally here.
No, I do not.
Where are you at?
Calgary.
No. I was gonna say, well, because I could take you out for beer and we could do it then, but.
Actually, what are you doing tomorrow?
I'm off tomorrow, but I don't know when my wife has married.
Okay, so...
We're getting married on Saturday, so...
Oh my God.
Congratulations, buddy. Yeah, no, that's awesome.
Excellent.
But here's the deal. I am in town till tomorrow night at 5 o'clock at the airport. I'm supposed to hang out with some friends, so ideally it would be the morning. But I like a coffee, whatever you want to do. We could actually do it at a place that's convenient to you.
Is this something we could do over the phone?
We could do it over the phone or Skype. I would prefer Skype in that case, just because it's easier for me to record.
Oh,
yeah.
Let's plan for that.
Okay.
And, so I leave, getting married here. I'm getting married in Langley on the 6th, and I leave for Mexico for the wedding on the 12th, and I'm not back until. And I go back right to work on April 22nd. But last week, really in April, I'm clear.
Okay. So all right. So I'm gonna try to get a hold of you. Just answer me, and we'll figure it out. Okay? We have a deal. By the way, I love your Dark Tower shit. I love the tattoo. I love that. Yeah. Take care.
Good to see you, Tyner.
Yeah. So anyway, we'll edit that part. All right. That's all. Congrats to Mr. Tyner. But no. But what I'm saying is like the majority, and this is something I learned. Like success. You can't control how much success you're going to get in this life. No. But you can do a lot of things to eliminate yourself getting in the way of your success.
Oh, sure.
And a lot of people don't look at it that way. People are going, I'm going to be famous. I'm going to be this and this and that. And anyway, and it's cool to think big. You should think big. It's not that realistic, unrealistic doesn't really matter. What matters is, okay, the rain is going to fall wherever it is going to fall. And you can't control that. But what you can do, right, is you can build your own bucket system to catch whatever water comes your way.
That's a good point.
Right?
Yeah.
And that's all you can do. Now, if you do that enough, Now, you still might never hit like the super big time,
No.
but you won't never not be working in what you want to do.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah, it's what I was talking about in having no plan B. You know, you
Yeah.
got a plan A. I've got a sign up on my wall in my working room that says I am responsible for my career.
Yeah.
And I know that nobody else is. It doesn't matter where that career goes, but what I need to know is that I have to start. I have to be the one that recognizes that the writing isn't going to be done unless I write, and that writing is what I have control over. That's where I have control, is the fact that I write. And if I choose to write or not to write, that is my choice.
Absolutely. That's the first and ultimately the most important step. The second thing too, when opportunities come your way, is being smart enough to reach out for them.
Oh, absolutely.
Right?
Yeah.
And not worry about what will happen as a result, right?
Absolutely. And the more buckets you put stuff in,
Yeah.
you know, the more likely you are. You know, I have a friend who talks about the popcorn theory of success. And he says, you know, you can have one little piece of popcorn you put in the pan and you can watch it, you know, be perfect, and you can try to make it perfect in the whole bit. But it's much better to have a bunch of popcorn,
Yeah.
you know, because the more you do, the more you're going to get. So,
Yeah.
you know, I think that's really important in the sense that, and I'll quote, it's Kevin J. Anderson that said that, you know, and I really appreciate, you know, Kevin's viewpoint, because again, he's one of the most successful people I know. You know, he's got stuff out there, you know.
And he's always got stuff out there.
Always
right?
got stuff out there, you know, and he's working with the movies. You know, the new Dune movie is coming out.
Well,
so,
yeah,
you know.
because he was smart again. Keeping yourself open, like keeping your options, keeping yourself open, right? And that a lot of people, I think Canadians are conditioned to some degree to be very closed.
Sure.
Right.
Sure.
I think there's a lot of that, because I truly believe this Canadians are some of the most talented people in the world.
Oh, I totally agree.
But I also think they also don't. The people, they're the last people to believe it.
Absolutely.
Right.
Oh,
They're
agree
the last
with you.
last people to believe it. And that's the problem. So when I look at it, like she came earlier, the person there. She's talking about not charging for a proofreading. And I go, well, why wouldn't you charge for your proofreading? Why not? What, your time's worth something, right?
Sure. Yeah.
But I can tell her this, but she has to give herself permission.
You do. Yes.
Right? To do that, right? I can't do that for her.
It's that taking responsibility again for what you know and what you can give.
Yeah, exactly. Well, also, I came to a realization about 2 years ago. People are going to do exactly what they want to do.
True.
That's the reality. That's the greatest truth of the world.
They might cite themselves that they're not, but really when it comes down to it, they are doing what they want to do.
Yeah, and a lot of people don't realize that it is our greatest gift.
Yeah.
And it's our greatest curse.
Sure.
Because if we know what we want, and that's why I always, when we were talking off the air, the very first question I ask people I don't know is, what do they want? It's a big question, but it's because it tells me an awful lot about that person right away without me even really going too deep. And I get a good sense of someone's psyche, right? Just based on how clear their answers are.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Yeah. No, I think you know, if you're going to goof off, you need to give yourself permission to goof off.
Absolutely.
You need to say, okay, I have goof off time, but I'm going to allot that goof off time and say, okay, I'm going to really enjoy goof off.
Yeah, embrace it. Like embrace it. Whatever you do, embrace it. Right?
Yeah.
Don't be blind to what you're doing.
Exactly.
Yeah. I think you're very copacetic to what I'm saying on that.
No, I totally, you know, the thing is, I was taught at a very early age to listen.
Yeah.
And I think part of the listening comes from who you're with, and to really hear what they're saying to you before you actually start to speak. And I think that there's a lot of people who don't know enough to do that. And one of the things that I learned very early was not just in a conversation to listen to what the person is saying and bounce off that, but also to think about when I'm writing, you know, what my characters are telling me.
Yeah.
Because I know a lot of people say, oh, well, I have control of my characters. And that's true. Or my characters are not me.
Yeah.
And that's true too. But on the other side, you know, we're delving with our own subconscious, and we're going down deep into parts of our psyche that we would not do normally, where we're talking to people because they kind of go, whoa, I'm not sure. So if we allow our characters to freely speak, sometimes they free parts of our psyche that we're not willing to disclose in any other way. So you can read a story and say, no, that's not the author, which in truth it's not, but the author is pulling elements of their own.
Great writing is actually, it comes down to two things in my opinion: the art of empathy,
absolutely,
and the art of sympathy.
Absolutely.
Those are the two things writing comes down to. Can you make a character empathetic enough that the audience gets the character, understands the character? They don't have to like them, they don't have to dislike them.
No, absolutely not. They have to understand them.
They have to understand them.
You got it.
Right? Number two, sympathy. Can they be sympathetic to the stakes of the story you're telling?
Yes.
And it can be about anything, right? Absolutely.
It could be about,
I have a story about the idea of it's the Matrix meets Indiana Jones. So I have spam bots, I have zombie mobsters, I have all these like crazy little goofy things.
Right.
But I remember the heart of the story is about a cowardly character being forced out of his comfort zone.
Yeah.
And rediscovering the magic of life that he left behind a long time ago.
Yep.
And that's something a lot of people can relate to.
Absolutely. And you really touched on the idea of heart.
Yeah.
The heart of the story doesn't necessarily mean it's a nice story and a pretty story, because I think a lot of people think of heart as, this is sweet, I love, and I mean, maybe in romance, there's that kind of heart.
It depends on the romance, yes.
Yeah, but I think that heart isn't necessarily what is going to make you feel good inside. What it is it's the thing that's going to make you, like you say, empathize with the story. It's going to pull you down in there by the short hairs, and it's going to get you in there and thinking about what it is that makes you feel and get angry, and get involved in things, and that's going to change your life, and that's going to make you grow, in some cases in a really, really dangerous way.
Actually, in all cases, a really dangerous way.
Absolutely.
Because now, I'm not saying like as the storyteller is the truth, but what you're doing is your readers are empathetic people.
They are.
By their very nature, they have to be. They're invested in work. They're very empathetic people. So if you create enough empathetic reactions in them, you're going to make them re-examine themselves.
It's true.
Yeah.
It's true. And not in the way necessarily that you're intending them, because you have no control over that either.
Absolutely.
You have control of drawing your reader into your story or not. That's what you have control over. You have control over the words that you write down on the page. But you don't have control over what the character is going to take away from the story and be involved in. So again, I have another friend who said she had someone who had 2 terms in Afghanistan and was able to read her novel, and he found that was the novel that he kept on going back to because it helped him survive. Yeah. She had no way of knowing that he was going to pick her novel out of a book box.
And that probably floored her when she heard that.
Yeah. It did. Yeah. She said it was one of the best comments because what he told her, and this is Carol Berg, and the novel is Transformation. It's her first novel. She's written a number since, but he said that it got passed around to all of his colleagues, and they had to make sure that they were hiding it so that it didn't get snatched by somebody else who was wanting to read it. So it wasn't just him that found that book transformational. She had no concept of when she was writing the story that she was going to be touching people that way.
Well, okay, so in terms of communication with people, there are 3 parts to it, in my opinion. Intention.
Yeah.
Impact.
Yeah.
Interpretation.
Yeah.
So the person that I'm trying to create an impact with has no control over my intentions.
True.
I have no control over their impact.
Right.
But the interesting part is where we meet in the middle is interpretation.
It's interpretation.
Yeah.
Exactly.
That's also where all the heart of all conflict is.
Oh, absolutely. And that has to do with word choice.
Yes.
Because when you're dialoguing with someone, and the word choice is misinterpreted. I use a word and you go, I'm not sure what that word means. Sometimes people don't want to ask, I'm not sure what the word means, or they think they know what the word means. Like Inigo Montoya saying that word, I don't think you know what that word means in Princess Bride. It's, there's a conflict in understanding, and what I find is one of the hardest things to write is to be able to write words that I have a sense that the reader is going to get what I'm saying. And there are some great novelists who, they put stuff in there and you have no doubt what that means. Absolutely no doubt.
Yeah.
Because you're on the other side of the page doesn't mean that they haven't fed you the whole picture.
It's not just the words. It's about what's said. It's about what isn't said.
It's what isn't said. It's the story.
Yeah. It's the nuance of a story. I said this at creating biblical characters. It's the weakest part of my game as a writer. Right? Is nuance, because I think about the story I'm trying to tell.
Yes.
But I'm not always thinking about the story I'm not telling.
It's true.
And it's something I'm working on it. I know, like the first novel I'm having coming out, there are failures I am willing to live with there. Right? But the next book, I will try to work on making it better.
Yeah.
Right? Right, and then the book after that, I will try to make it better. I'm not one of those people. I'm okay with an imperfect book. Like I'm really
That's
okay.
awesome.
Yeah, I'm really okay with it.
Yeah.
It's not because it's not that I couldn't necessarily do better. I just have too many other stories I want to tell.
Yes, yeah.
You're right.
I find the same thing, that every single short story I write, whether it sells or not, is practice for the next one.
Yeah.
And I'm willing to take risks because of that. And I learned that through my art, is that if you take risks, sometimes you're going to extend yourself beyond what your toolbox is allowing you to do. But what it does is it enables you to find the right tool for the thing.
But the other thing too is it stretches you. You never go back. Like once the genie's out of the lamp, it never goes completely back in again.
It doesn't go back in.
Right? It never does.
Yeah.
So what happens is, even if you don't have the toolbox, then somehow magically overnight a tool was created that you didn't have before.
It's true.
Right.
It's true. The right person will come along to give you that tool.
Yeah.
Or they will send you through a series of investigations where you do learn it. And there's always questions that you can ask of people on social media too. How do you do this? Or at a conference like this,
yes,
where you're sitting in a panel, and I know that on one of the panels about creating character, Dean Wells was saying, what are the areas that you personally have problems with?
Yeah, and I answered that there, right?
That was an excellent panel, because I think that question brought out ideas in panels about what people individually were having problems with, and it made me think about what I was having problems with. And I think that's a question that often doesn't get asked. It's, well, here's the things that work for me, but the things that I'm having trouble working with are the things that you're struggling with, and sometimes people need to know those too.
Yeah, and where I'm good at nuance is fight scenes.
Yes.
Because I get fighting as a storytelling tool.
Sure.
Because I'm a big professional wrestling fan, right? And professional wrestling is completely a storytelling. Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
Right. There are all kinds of little things you can add in a pro wrestling match to make a fight between two people interesting.
True.
What if one person's hurt? What if during a fight an accident happens?
Right.
Right. What if, because it's a very real, very real thing. Right.
You're thinking of the possibilities in a situation.
Yeah, exactly. So what happens if this? And there's a psychology to a fight, and I get that psychology because again, I'm a pro wrestling fan. I know when it's a good match, I know why it's a good match. When it's a bad match, I also know why it's a bad one, right?
Really?
Right.
Yeah.
That's just the way. Right. There's an art form to a fight, so I get that. So now, for me, it's like when I talk about nuance. Now I got to think about that in terms of the whole novel.
Yeah.
What's the story of the place I'm in?
Yeah.
What's the story?
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
Of the people in it.
Yeah.
Right? And how does one impact the other?
Yes.
Right?
And a lot of that is hidden from the reader, but even if it's hidden from the reader, you have to give some suggestion that it exists.
Yes.
By whatever nuances you put, like you say, it could be language, it could be, some element of the world that the character is manipulating. It could be some element of what's going on with the opposite character,
Yes.
you know, with the secondary character, the tertiary character who also has a life. You know, some walk-in who might have some slight feeling there, but that walk-in is only going to walk in and then walk back out again.
Yes.
Nevertheless, they don't have a name, but they've still got a life.
But they also have a purpose in the
and
story.
they have a purpose in the story.
Yeah, the one thing also, brevity is very underrated in stories. Less is definitely more in a lot of ways.
Less is more.
Yeah.
This is right. Yeah.
The reader's imagination is the best toolbox to play in.
As long as you are in control, in that magical control of what you're giving to the reader to imagine in the direction where you feel the story needs to lead them. Because, for instance, if you say, you know, he was in a big city, you know, and the person is from Hong Kong, or the person is from New York, or the person is from Vancouver, they're going to imagine an entirely different city from what you may want to imagine. And then you suddenly throw the fact that they're on Mars, you know, in there, they're going to go, whoa, wait a minute, that's not where my head was, and they're going to get bumped out.
Yes.
So it's that conveyance of where.
But even then, you can still possibly get away with it if you lead the audience a certain way and they know they're being played with a little bit. Because if they know it,
Sure,
they'll be like, okay,
sure.
You got me. Where are we going?
You do.
Yeah.
You do have to give them that preamble in the beginning or whatever. You have to prepare your reader in whatever way you're going to do it.
But I mean, I said, but that's the interesting thing about writing a story. There's all these little challenges with everything
Sure.
we're doing.
Then you're bringing your reader on board, though.
Yes.
They're your ally. They're not your.
Oh no!
So-
You never ever insult the intelligence of the reader. That's that is probably the hardest thing,
Truly.
right?
Truly. Yeah.
That is the hardest thing about telling a story is how much of the reader's intelligence, right? You can play with the reader, but you also gotta let the reader know I'm not going to cheat you, and that's the important part.
Yeah. They have to understand the game.
Yeah.
So as long as you bring them into the game, which is whatever, if it's a playful novel or a serious novel or whatever, there's a promise and there's a play of the novel that you're getting into.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's figuring out how that's going to work with the
Absolutely.
reader, you know,
Yeah.
and how it's going to work with you.
Yeah. So, like I said, it seems to me like much like me, you've become very comfortable in your skin as a creator. So, yeah.
Totally. Well, I'm responsible for what I do, and I think one of the reasons why I've become that way is, of course, as you get older, you realize that you have less time in front of you than you did behind, and that's both a good and bad thing. The good thing about it is you have a wealth of experience to build on, you know, and a wealth of writing experience to build on. A lot of it that was practice. So I've started to write in 1994 seriously, but I've been writing all my life ever since I was pre-verbal.
Yeah.
But telling stories in my head and actually putting them down seriously on the page took until 1994, and beyond that, I didn't get published, and get that verification of publication until 2010. So there was a good long time of practice and learning the tools and doing all of this stuff before I actually had that verification. So I had to find other ways of verifying that I was a writer. But even then, I had to learn to become comfortable in my own skin and say, frack it. It doesn't matter. I'm going to write what I want to write.
Yes.
And I think what happened there was that my sister died. My sister was always my muse and always the woman who encouraged me to continue to write. And it was kind of like, well, yeah, I have my sister to pat me on the back and the whole thing. But when she was gone, I realized, you know what? I don't have any time. And it's not that I don't have any time. It's that I have now. And it doesn't matter how old I am or how young I am. We all have just now. That's all.
No, absolutely. And there is an odd advantage to thinking that way too. In a weird way, you're bulletproof.
Yeah.
Because it's not that things can't happen to you. It's more the reality of it doesn't matter what happens to you.
Yeah.
Right? You're not going to let it get in the way of whatever it is you set out to do. Right?
Got it.
Right? And because of that, it's just like no one can really threaten you or hold you or anything like that. It's not always a good thing. I certainly don't respond to certain situations maybe as politely and demurely as I should, but at the same token, I don't give a shit. Yeah.
And I think the good thing about that is we're willing to accept people as they are.
Yeah.
Once we learn to accept ourselves as we are, then we're willing to just kind of go, let them wear what dress they want, or, no matter whether they're, transgender or whatever. Let them be who they are. If I want to put, yellow streaks in my hair with purple whatever, I can do that. And if someone looks at me and goes, that's their problem.
Yeah, exactly. And on the flip side of that too, it's just you're like, you know what? It's bigger than me. Like it takes a long time to realize this. When I started when I was younger, I was like, I don't want to be small. Now that I'm older, I realize I'm even so much smaller than I imagined to be. The difference is I'm okay with it.
Yeah.
And because I'm okay with it, it's like, you know what? This world is bigger than me. I don't have all the answers. I'm not here to give all the answers. That's not what I'm here to do. And to be frank, I don't care about all the answers anymore. I still ask questions, but it interests me. It doesn't necessarily interest anybody else.
Yeah.
I'm okay with that. Right?
Brilliant.
You're gonna have your own questions. You're gonna have your own way of doing things. Every once in a while, part of my brain's like, why are they doing that? But the other part of me is like, does it really matter? Right?
One of the reasons why sometimes I write comedy. I like to do that because I think comedy has that quality of taking people out of themselves by not being serious about something. And I totally love Monty Python for that because sometimes they can deal with something that's very, very deep through the vehicle of comedy. And I'm thinking of that particular episode where, the guy dressed as a woman, goes outside and sees space out there, and she starts to talk about how space is out there and there's a million stars, and they've been in this little individual problem where things are going on, and then suddenly she's out there looking at the stars, and it's incongruous because it's within this vehicle of comedy, and yet what they're saying is exactly what you were saying, is it doesn't matter. We're really, really small, and it's really, really big.
And it's bigger than me. I don't understand it, but I don't need to understand it, right? What I need to do is whatever it is I'm supposed to do, I'm going to trust that everybody else around me is doing what they're supposed to do, right?
Yeah.
And if I can help somebody, great. If I can't, that's okay too. Somebody else will help them. It will work out, right? And if it doesn't, I don't have to worry about it because I won't be here much longer afterwards anyway, right?
You do what is best to make the world a better place.
Yeah, that's
my feeling. And sometimes if it's about talking about dark things,
absolutely.
As long as those dark things are going in a transformational place, I am, going to do it.
Dr. Seuss is one of my favorite writers, and he's also, I would argue, he's the greatest graphic novelist of all time. That's my argument. But one of the things about Seuss is, right, he doesn't shy away from dark stuff.
No, not at all.
No, right? You can't. I think what a lot of people. The only thing I really don't like about the nature of how the stories are told today, certain things are considered taboo, or certain things are considered hot spots, and you don't want to explore it. But that's the nature of art. Art is about asking questions in those uncomfortable spaces and finding answers. Now, you don't need to agree with me, and that's the other thing too. We don't need to agree with each other.
No.
Look, me and you will have different beliefs on things. I'm sure of it. But you know what? I still have a beer with you. I'm a big enough person to acknowledge that I am not the end all be all, and I kind of feel you're a big enough person to have the same thing. We'll still disagree because, hey, that's life. We're all different, right?
Yeah, I think the thing is, though, the value of a conversation like we're having, it's trying to find points of agreement.
Absolutely.
Because points of agreement bring things forward. And so, if I started to talk about the political situation south of the border, for instance, and I'm not going to say whether I'm for or against, and you had a different approach to it, then what it could do is take this conversation off on an entirely different tangent where we're not going. So I guess the thing is, because we're in a writers' conference, I wouldn't do that anyway. But I think that, we're wanting to come up with a podcast that is going to deal with some issues that other people are going to go, wow, I never saw that before. So the more agreement we can come to in a lot of ways is a good thing.
Here's where this might be the only disagreement I really have. It's okay if we disagree too.
Absolutely, yes, it is.
Because here's the thing: someone would listen to what I'm saying and go, well, maybe he's got a point. Someone would listen to what you're saying, well, they got a point. And here's the best part: we are at that point. We're also giving permission for other people to have their own answer, which really, I'm cool with that. So I mean,
I get that.
Yeah, I'm cool with that. It's like that's it. This, for me, this podcast is about giving exposure. Brenda Carre.
Yep.
This is who you are. This is what you do, and this is why. And that is what I'm trying to get across.
Yep.
That's my goal.
Yep.
Anything else? Cool. Anything, right? And that's it, right?
Now I sound like I'm agreeing with you a lot, but my background is as a teacher.
Yeah.
So I was a teacher for 34 years. I was an educator, and in my process of education, I'm also, in my 60s. So, I've been retired for a number of years, but, a lot of the stuff that I've learned in terms of dialoguing with people have been through coming to learning through success.
Yes.
I've tried to teach students to learn through their successes rather than through their failures, and then to be willing to fail.
Yes.
So to start with success and then to say, okay, there's going to be times along here where you're going to fail and we'll do critique and we'll disagree. But most of the time in my life, I approach things through that whole episode of trying to find out where people are coming from and sussing them out. So in actuality, I'm being sneaky here. And when I appear to be agreeing, in a lot of cases, I'm just like you're trying to suss me out. I'm doing the same thing to you. And I'm pulling stuff out of you because of my background as a teacher. Mm-hmm. So, there may be things, like I said before, that we disagree on, and I'm sure there are. I'm sure there's many, many of them.
Absolutely.
And that can provoke an entirely different discussion.
And we totally, and you know what? In a different environment, I would have no problem with those discussions with you, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. Yeah.
Exactly so. And I'd be quite happy to do that.
Yes.
Because there are times when you can get my dander up and I can be as vocal as the rest. I have kids, what can I say?
Buttons that can be pushed.
There are major buttons.
And we all have them, right?
Yeah.
Right? But I mean, that's what makes us all human beings.
Oh God, yeah.
Yeah, right? I mean, if for me, I'm very cool because of again, the nature of what I do. I have to be very cool, casual, conversive. Doesn't mean I'm not passionate or I don't have heated opinions about certain things. I absolutely do, right? But again, this isn't completely about me, right? And so I'm like, and that's always been kind of the way I've approached how I interview people. It's like, it's about me trying to bring the best.
To bring to pull out what's in there.
Yeah.
Yeah. And if I were to say that, I think that's the idea about my writing, is to try to approach the idea that people can transform. You can have people, unless you're writing about a serial killer who's, just really is over on the other side. I mean, I think that there are people that probably are irredeemable, but I don't necessarily want to write about them. I want to write about what made them that way rather than, them being that way, so to speak.
Yeah.
So I would probably write the story of them becoming that.
Yes.
And that's the end point, that's who they are, as the end. They've lost a battle, really, and there's nothing wrong with someone losing a battle.
Well, no, nothing wrong with someone losing a battle. I think in that case, though, it's not really about losing the battle, because we all lose battles.
Sure.
I think in that case, it's losing the war.
God, yeah.
Yeah.
It's
right.
losing the war.
Yeah.
And I'm okay with tragedies.
Yes.
Wars get lost. They really, really do. And sometimes we have to talk about wars getting lost. Like I did a blue pencil with someone who, actually red pencil with someone who was talking about suicide. And, rather than critiquing, I'm saying suicide is a very, very valid issue. Just be aware that it's a hot button for some people, and it's not going to be a good ending that some people want to go to. But sometimes you have to write that story. You got to write something that is gut-wrenching and that is dark and that is on the side of characters who may be interesting but can be irredeemable.
Well, yeah, but again, the heart of the story does not have to be nice.
No, it doesn't have
Not
to be nice. I like a heart of the story that makes people think,
Yeah,
or a heart of the story that sees the devil in a different way.
absolutely.
Did you ever read Perfume?
I didn't.
I think it won like a World Fantasy Award, but what I hated about the novel, it was very well written, is that the main character was irredeemable from the beginning until the end.
Because there was an absolute.
So there was no change.
It was an absolute, and because
Yeah.
it was an absolute,
And all the secondary characters, you never got to see them deep enough to care about them, and they were just fodder for him. And it's what I hated. I thought it was the biggest flaw in the book.
No. So the best example of an absolute character in literature today is the Joker.
Oh gosh, yeah.
Yeah, the Joker
Yeah.
he's an absolute. There is a reason the Joker is the villain, because absolutes, they're awesome when you put a character that can change against something that will not change, right?
Yeah.
Who you are in that situation, it tells an awful lot about you as a person,
It's true.
right? That's where the Joker is such an interesting villain in small doses.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
In small doses, because he's the eye of the storm, and the storm does need to happen from time to time, right? But when he's the main character, there is absolutely nothing you can relate to.
No.
That's exactly the
No.
problem. And
Yeah,
that was the
yeah,
thing.
yeah.
I didn't care at the end of the book one way or another what happened to this character.
No, you
I
don't.
didn't care.
You don't.
Nope.
No, he can't really be a main character.
because there's no way to empathize with a character like that.
Yeah,
That's
and you
just-
couldn't empathize with those other characters because they weren't in the picture
Yeah,
long enough.
it's
So-
funny. I had someone working on a story about an anti-hero, and that was like teetering along those lines. I gave her the exact same grade. The
Yeah.
problem with that is this.
Yeah, and Stephen Donaldson's Thomas Covenants, I mean, they had their other dreary issues, but, I mean, that character, you could see where his flaws, how he changed, and how he was a reluctant hero.
Yeah, but the thing about Thomas Covenant is he had deep flaws,
Yeah.
but in spite of he had an interesting contradiction. He didn't believe in it,
Yeah.
but he loved it at the same time.
Yeah, the thing that made Thomas Covenant a character is that he was the antithesis to the Lord of the Rings.
Yeah, absolutely.
As a character.
Yeah.
And because of that, it was a seminal work, and it got people thinking about anti-heroes.
Exactly.
For me, he was too much of a whiner. I
And I
really
agree
just
with
could
you.
not stand his angst and his whining. But then that was my reader take, you know.
But whining through 3 books, and then when he dies, his girlfriend whines for him. And
Yes.
it's just like, yeah.
No. Actually, it was that's the first series I was okay with. The first 3, it made sense. It was about him coming face to face with his own mortality and whining about it because I'm about to die and there's something I can damn well do. And when he comes to the end, you see the start to his own redemption, which I thought why the first 3 worked. I did not like the second 3.
Okay.
Yeah,
I agree.
yeah, I did not like the second 3.
Too
I
much
didn't
whining.
read-
It turned me off of all Donaldson's after that.
Yeah,
I
I
tried Miracle Dreams and
normally
was
read
whining.
books for character, but
Yeah.
I ended up reading that book for the world.
Yeah.
Right.
You know, it
Yeah.
is a drop dead gorgeous world
Yeah.
in many, many ways.
Yeah.
And so that carried me through a lot. I really, really did not like the main character, but I put up with him.
Yeah.
Just the same way as you go through life and you put up with people that you meet that are just a bloody pain because you need them for some reason. And again, that sounds sly and sneaky, but I think there are times that you have to work with people that you just don't like.
It's okay now. Like I learned this at my day job, which I refer to as a sparkle muffin because it's a drunken hot mess of a place sometimes, right? I deal with people who are the nicest word I could be is they breathe oxygen, and I don't know what else to do. Right? So, all right, that's the nicest way I can put that. And I learned my way of dealing with it was really simple. I learned that they are here because someone wants them here, and it may not be me, but somebody else wants them here, and I have no control over that.
Right.
And I kind of made my peace. I've made my peace in life with the fact that there are going to be people in my life that I deal with. I don't have to like you. In
Right.
fact,
Right.
I'm okay with not liking you.
Yeah.
But on the same token, right? All right, I'm not going to let you ruin my day either.
Exactly.
So, yeah, at the same time, I'm not going to let you ruin my day either. So I've gotten past the point where I need to be in kindergarten anymore. So,
And again, it's being comfortable in your own skin.
Yeah.
You know, and allowing yourself to wear purple or whatever it is you want to wear.
That's right.
It's interesting. You know, you're talking about characters and, you know, likable characters, and I really like the idea of likable not necessarily redeemable villains, but interesting villains.
Yeah.
As much as, you know.
I love Doctor Doom. I love Doctor Doom because Doctor Doom nowadays he's a little bit of a relic, and that's part of his charm.
Yeah.
Because he talks to himself in the third person, and I love the audacity of that. But I also just love the fact that his story is such a tragic one, because he's actually a brilliant, compassionate man whose only real problem is he's got an ego.
Uh-huh.
And you're right. That's honestly that's who he is. He is a man that has done as much. You could argue has done as much good as bad depending on which side of the fence you are in it. Because he actually literally runs a country, but because he can't stand up to Reed Richards in terms of intellect, right? He can't take it. He just like someone's better than him at something.
Sure.
And it drives him.
Sure. Yeah,
right.
That's his raison d'etre.
Yeah. Right.
Sure.
And, right.
Yeah.
I like Doom.
Sure.
Consequently, I don't like the Joker. But anyways,
You have to have some negativity in your hero, and you have to have some positivity in your villain somewhere. Something that makes them not black and white.
What makes them human too?
It makes them human. You bring them down to the human level.
Even Hitler liked his dog.
What was Terry Goodkind's first book?
Wizard's First Rule.
Yeah, and that one I remember, like the villain was very human. You could see why they were doing what they were doing. I don't remember a lot about the book anymore, but I do remember that struck me in that one, that the villain was very well fleshed out and very.
Well, the interesting part about the villain, he was actually a very bad character. However, Richard's mentor was Zed. Dark and Rawl, the villain, talked, acted, and thought. He pushed Richard. He challenged Richard, not in a negative way, right? They had a conversation when he realized that he couldn't be broken by the more. So he respected him. Right. And once he got his respect, Rawl was like much like a teacher to a student, right?
So his mentor.
Yeah. There's a bit of a mentor aspect to him as well. So what happened there was, you're like, this is a smart, capable, brilliant man. Yeah. This is not a run-of-the-mill cartoon villain. Right. And Richard the main character, had flaws and weaknesses, and the villain is right in pointing them out. He had a point. Right?
I think that as long as the reader is, again, cued to that somehow at the beginning, you can't surprise the reader by having them suddenly realize the villain is not a bad guy, not totally a bad guy. Yeah. There have to be some key notes right at the beginning that you go, hey, wait a minute, I'm not confused about this villain, but I'm wondering about this villain.
I have my first novel coming out soon called The Cloud Diver. So my villain in the story is a guy by the name of Adam and his zombie mobster assistant Chester. Yeah. So my very first introduction to him is he's actually on the phone with his daughter, talking about, Daddy will get you anything on congratulations. What do you want? And he hears, a pony? You want a pony? Daddy's going to have to work a lot longer for the pony, and it just eats and stuff, right? Yeah. It gave a very human element to him right away, because what I've done now, this is a guy that cares but loves his daughter. Like, I established that immediately. Then I got to the part where he's a leg breaker about to kill my main character. Yeah. Right? Yeah. Which is again. Yeah. I'm not saying that's how he should make his living, but you got the sense that you got a clear grasp of who he was and what he was doing. Right away. There's no doubt. And so I could have some fun with him. He could be like a character. He's the guy down the street. I like
Grimdark for that reason. I think that there's elements of Grimdark. People go, oh, it's unremittingly grim, and I'm going, no, it is not unremittingly grim. You have characters who may not be particularly likable characters, but they have a great deal of depth. And, the series that I really like are Joe Abercrombie's books. The Blade itself You know, starts with one of the best villains I've ever read is Glokta, Sandan Glokta, and he's been severely tortured. He is not a nice man in any way, shape, or form, and he does things perfectly self-serving. But every once in a while there's a glimmer of heart there from who he was before he was severely tortured, and he makes decisions that are based on his frustratingly, annoying good inner self, and he refuses to believe in that, but nevertheless it's there. So, things don't work out well for him, and he's not a good character, but you have sympathy for him when he climbs the stairs with his broken legs, and when he has to eat porridge because he can't eat anything else because every other tooth has been pulled in his mouth.
Which goes back to the very beginning. Great storytelling is about the mastery of two things: empathy and sympathy.
Yes.
And I feel we have a good interview here. What do you think?
I agree.
So we're gonna do something a little fun here. Since Miss Colleen, you all right? Since you crashed the party, which was very welcome. Colleen Anderson was the other guest here, ladies and gentlemen. Why don't you promote your current work and how people can find you?
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't realize.
No.
Well, before she does that, I don't think I've promoted my current work.
I'm going to.
You're going to come back.
I'm coming back. I'm coming back to you.
Okay.
You are how I started. I figure you're going to be how I end.
I'm going to be how you go.
Okay, so Colleen, promote your stuff.
I had a collection come out last year through Black Shuck Books in the UK. It's called A Body of Work. It is a reprint collection of my dark fiction. What I'm working on right now is trying to put together a poetry collection of fantastic poetry. And I am working on a apocalyptic, near future mosaic novel. So it'll be a collection of short stories that have an overarching story that threads it together.
That's really cool. And how can people find you?
They can find me on WordPress. Just Google Colleen Anderson and I'll probably come up first.
Yes.
And on Facebook.
All right.
And Alice Unbound. You didn't talk about Alice Unbound.
I didn't. Well, Alice Unbound Beyond Wonderland came out last year. It was an anthology on Lewis Carroll characters, and but in the modern world.
Yes. As for now, that's for you, Miss Brenda.
Right then.
Go for it.
Okay. So what I'm working on now is an extension of a story that was the cover story, the lead story in Pulp Literature's Volume 17. It was a short story that I had sold to them called Gret. It was my first Canadian publication, for which I was really excited.
High five.
High five.
Yes.
So it was lovely to be published in my own country, and I've regretted that, not having that opportunity. So now I'm looking forward to being able to, continue with stories in Canada. I do have 4 stories that are coming out this year in the U.S. 2 are coming out from a magazine called Pulp House, which is a quirky magazine. It was very, very big in the 90s, and then it stopped being published for a while. But it carries a lot of really, really big name people, Esther Friesner Ray Voxovich and a lot of people who have been out there in the field, so I feel really honored to be part of their group. The story that's coming out most recently is a Pulp House issue number 7, and it's a story called PMS and a Hand Grenade.
I heard about that in there, and it made me laugh a little bit.
Yeah, so it's just a wonky story, and I have another story coming out called Roadkill a little bit later on this year, also from Pulp House. And then I have 2 stories. One is a romance called Green Girl that is coming out in Fiction River, and the other one is a story called The Gift, which is a Christmas story about a little boy experiencing one of his first Christmases and wrapping up an unusual gift for his mother. So I had a lot of fun writing those, and I want to stick with short stories, but the Gret story in pulp literature is now going to become a book. So I'm about halfway through about a 70,000 word novel about Gret. She was a secondary character in the core novel of a very big world I'm working on. That deals with a an indigenous race. And again, you're talking about a hot button here. So I had to write the story that I needed to write. This indigenous race rules the country. And they do it by means of something called mindedness, which is treating telepathy like the internet. So they're in contact with one another in a lot of ways in which we are in our own world. So lots going on with me, and I'm hoping for indie publishing in some areas and hybrid publishing in other areas, and traditional publishing in other areas. So
you're busy.
Subscribing to Kevin Anderson's Popcorn Theory of Success.
No, which is really good. And lastly, how can people find you?
You can find me at brendacarre.com. So that is my website. It tells a lot about my world building and about the stories that are there. Yeah. And also on Facebook. And I actually have two names. I have my personal name, Brenda Carre without an E, and then I'm Brenda Carre A. It's actually Brenda Carre with an E on the end, and all of my writing is done under the name Brenda Carre with an E.
Okay, fair enough.
And that was my conversation with Brenda Carre and Colleen Anderson. Definitely check out their works that they talked about at the very end. It's always great to see Colleen. She's one of my biggest supporters, and I always am appreciative of that. And Brenda, you're awesome. Both of you are welcome back anytime. So I'm going to give myself a report card here with the podcast and going on my own and stuff. The last 3 months have been a very, very interesting process. There's been some things I've struggled with. There's some things I really have succeeded, and there are some things I need to I'm honestly improving on. So the bad. Let's get rid of the bad. The Patreon is getting shut down. It's number of reasons. I haven't been focusing on the Patreon for the last few episodes, and there's a reason for that. I had a great conversation with Adam Dries about the Patreon at Creative Inc. And we had a really, really good chat, like philosophically, about where I was and where the Patreon should actually be for someone like me. And the truth of the matter is, at this particular moment in time, I'm not there yet. I have been very successful in terms of sponsorships. I've been very successful in terms of the Facebook page. And those are really, really big pluses. People have been supporting my work, and my numbers have been gradually going back up, which is also really, really cool, to where they were with the Aurora Awards. And my goal is now to beat that record this year, and I think I can. There's going to be some stuff coming up, some interesting stuff, some different stuff, and I'll be announcing that soon. Other things have happened that I didn't foresee. I have a relationship, which I did not anticipate happening. I met someone. She's awesome. She's one of the sweetest people I've ever met. She really, really is. I'm not going to name names. She knows who she is. She steals my tea and leaves doilies, and she'll get that joke, and I'm okay that she's the only one that gets that. But yeah, it's been great. But now I've had to kind of relearn how to balance my time. Not her fault. It's mine. I have to do that better. So this week is all about finishing some creative stuff I am behind on. And it's also about getting ahead. I'm nearly done a YA novel. I'm starting Cloud Diver 2. Cloud Diver 1 is going through one more edit pass. And then if all goes to plan, by the end of the summer, I will have 2 books out. I have some other big things I kind of want to do. Like I said, there's been ups and downs, but it's been a heck of an adjustment. And I'd have to give myself probably a B-. I'm behind on some things, but if anything, the first 3 months have taught me what I should focus on, and I am grateful for that. And like this podcast has kept rolling. The YouTube channel now is like really good. There's 170 episodes there, so I've done good, but I could do better, and I will. Thanks for everybody for listening to this far. And that will do it for this episode of Just Joshing. If you want to support the podcast, you can do so a number of different ways. You can subscribe to it. I'm on iTunes, Google Play, Spotify, and Podomatic. Click subscribe, pass the word along. That'd be great. My books, The Watcher, Storm Dancer, Wandering God, are available through Mirror World Publishing. My book, Alice Zero, will be coming out in May. Pre-orders will be available first week of May. Or at the end of the first week, they should be done. My YouTube channel is Joshua Pantellaresco. You can check out all my interviews there. I just added a few more. But no matter what, thanks for listening. Stay inspired. And I'll talk to you guys next time.
Josh.